Do you hate the thought of working past 55 or 60? Do you hate not being able to live the life you deserve today? Do you hate not knowing what your financial future looks like? It's time to stop doing what you hate. Here's your host, Mr. Harold Green.
Hello, everybody. This is Harold Green of Bright Tree Wealth Management, and it is time to stop doing what you hate. Hopefully, you're having a fantastic day today. I'm doing pretty good. We're about to start a new series, and it's going to be an interesting one. It's something that everybody's talking about, but I think they're talking about it in the wrong context. And I've been thinking about this probably for about 4 months now. I've traveled. I've gone to different places in the world. I've seen some things. And, as I think about these things, it's really about narratives and then people using narratives to try to score political points and different crazy things like that. But it never really helps the people. And I want to get into something today that, again, I'm going to call it the affordability hoax. And the reason why I'm going to call it a hoax is because I've lived this life before. I've been broke with hardly anything in my pockets. And I've worked so hard that I've gotten myself in a position where, I'm doing okay. And I think a lot of you that are listening to my show, you're probably, you're on your way. You might already be there. You might be just starting out, but you're on the journey. You're on the path. And I did a podcast show, The Way Out to Financial Stability. I'm going to tell you that will solve the affordability hoax every single time. Every single time. So we're going to get into the show, The Affordability Hoax. And today is going to be part one. It's a 3-part series. And I want you to share this with anybody who's probably still living at home, because not everybody who's living at home is wasting their money. But we do find a lot of people that are living at home. They're not saving a lot. They're not investing a lot. They're living their best life because I've heard this said before. If I can't afford stuff anyway, why save for the future? Why invest for the future? Well, you're young now, but eventually you're going to get old. And when you get old, what are you going to have? That's a dangerous concept that I really want to get into. And I want to share with you how to frame this stuff when you hear it. All right. So are you ready? 1, 2, 3, let's get it. Today, what we're going to be doing is this is going to be a global exploration of why the world seems increasingly unaffordable. And why that perception it's only half true. And if you've been online lately, you've seen the headlines like everything is unaffordable. Rent is impossible. Home ownership is dead. We're not going to be able to buy a house. And in certain places like New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, London, Vancouver, yeah, the costs are astronomical. That's real. But here's what most people don't realize. A handful of expensive cities have created a global illusion. Now, the idea that the world is unaffordable is not just wrong, it's a hoax. And, this series is designed to break that illusion. I'm telling you, one episode at a time. So today, what we're going to do in episode 1, I'm going to lay it out for you. We're going to look at how the affordability narrative formed, why Americans and Westerners perceive global housing incorrectly, how social media distorts reality, and why 10 to 15 cities fooled billions into believing the entire planet is collapsing in cost. So let's get into it. Now, here's where it started. It didn't start with data. It started with emotion. And, oh man, I want to get so far ahead of myself. It's insane. I'm going to be doing a series on, oh my God, I think I want to call it outrage economics. Okay. How billions are made off of people's fear, their anger, and their outrage. I think I'm going to call it outrage economics. You can write that down. So in the early 2000s, social media, man, that stuff blew up, and then everybody could see how everybody else lived, what they got. And then guess what became the most viral content? Videos of insane rents, micro apartments, I call them rat boxes, record home prices, outrageous bidding wars. This happened to me. It happened to me. I went to buy a small 2-bedroom townhouse and it was $80,000. Some guy just came in and wrote a check and boom, it was his. He wasn't even going to live in it. He's going to rent it out. Rental income. Because that was a thing. Everybody was trying to get real estate to make money. Right. I'm not saying it's wrong, but it pushed us out, and I had to up my game because of it. And then guess what? The major media outlets, they poured gas on it, right? They just blew it up. But here's the trick. Like almost all of these stories focused on the same smaller group of cities, okay? And the world has over 4,000 major urban areas. And so, but the affordability story mainly comes from, and here it is, New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Seattle, Miami, London, Toronto, Vancouver, Sydney, Singapore, Hong Kong. And it's less than 0.3% of all the cities in the world. Yeah, they formed a narrative and they've shaped the worldview for billions of people. So here's something from behavioral economist Dr. Lena Morris. And I'm going to quote what she said. She said, humans process extremes as norms. If we see 50 videos about impossible rent in New York, we subconsciously assume the world is becoming universally unaffordable, even when 99% of the cities don't resemble that like at all. Okay. Now, here's the psychology comparison. And this is what I'm going to call reference bias. People compare their reality to the most glamorous or extreme cities, like never the ones that are actually representative. So no one dreams of comparing their town to Omaha or Lisbon or Medellin. People compare everything to Manhattan, London, Tokyo, LA, San Francisco. But like these places are outliers. They're not models of global affordability. And when you judge the world through the lens of the most expensive cities, like everything looks like a crisis, right? And I was in the gym the other day, and I was going into the men's executive locker room, where it's like, just like the executive one is nice and with showers and all kinds of stuff and just private lockers and stuff like that. And I was watching something on TV or just overheard something, and it's this like retirement planning show. And they were talking about some really interesting things, but it's basic information. Okay. And they were giving some really good advice. And what I thought, like, there's great financial advice for people retiring all over the place. It's just so much of it. But yet you hear about the affordability crisis, people not going to be able to retire, but yet you got all this advice out there. And I'm going to do a show in the future about why people won't hire somebody to work with them. And we'll get into that a little bit later. All right. So let's talk about like the 15 cities that distorted the world. Okay. So the global affordability panic, it's basically 15 cities whose unique conditions warp perception. And here's what it is: extreme regulatory constraints, hyper concentrated industries, geographic limits, foreign investment pressure, tech salaries inflating local prices, or fintech or financial bros. People who are in the financial industry, salaries are huge. And tourism driven rental conversions like Airbnbs. All right. In these cities, prices rose 200 to 600% faster than the median incomes. But like step outside those cities, here's what you're going to find. You're going to find rent half the price, homes like 60, 80% cheaper, lower taxes, lower insurance, lower transportation costs, higher quality life. Yeah, most people never look because the hoax keeps them mentally trapped along with their emotions, right? I don't want to live there. And then it's like, you want an apartment in Manhattan, right in Manhattan, in the heart of everything. You want a $4 million apartment, but you want somebody to charge you $800 to $2,000 a month in rent. That's unrealistic. And for us, every time our landlord in Hawaii raised our rent, like we would try to find another place to move to. Like $200 meant a lot to me at that time. So if I could find somewhere $200 cheaper, that meant we could buy $200 more a month in groceries, or I could pay down a bill $200 a month faster. I didn't sit there and say, this is wrong. This is evil. They should freeze my rent so I could get ahead. No, I had to up my game. And a lot of people are not mentally looking at it from that perspective. No, we want to get into something different. All right. So I want to get into a case study, and I want to compare let's look at New York and then compare it to other places. Okay. Now, I'm not saying you got to like up and leave and go to all these different places. I'm just like giving you a framework that if you are able to work from home, if you're able to work from anywhere in the world, Why would you put yourself in a situation where you're sitting there and you're like eating it? You're eating it. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But I'm not saying you got to move forever. You got to move, go somewhere and like save your money. And then you can come back and boom, buy whatever you want because you bit the bullet in the beginning. But a lot of people won't do that. So New York median rent is $3,900. Spain, Valencia, $850. Budapest, I'm not saying go to Budapest, but rent is cheap. It's $550. Kuala Lumpur, $500. Santiago, Chile, 400. And I've thought about Chile too. I've been looking at some places in Argentina. Man, they are nice. Lisbon, 900 to 1200. And then, like, say in Georgia, not Georgia and the United States, but Georgia and the European countries, 450. Now, these aren't like rural, obscure towns. These are vibrant modern cities with infrastructure, and it rivals or exceeds New York. But a lot of people are going over there, and then some of the locals are getting mad about that too. And the affordability hoax persists because global exposure is distorted. People see New York's pain, but not Budapest affordability. I'm not telling everybody to go to Budapest hungry. I'm not saying that. All right. I'm just kind of giving you ideas. But then if we want to look at other small towns in the United States, we can go do that too. But I'm just like showing you something different. So social media guys, they can amp this up. And Instagram rewards rage content. Okay. It's called rage content. Look at this $2,000 apartment the size of a closet. This is what their 700K buys you in California, a shed. You ain't that smart if you pay $2,000 a month for a closet. You ain't that smart if you pay $700,000 for a shed. That ain't smart. And you're probably working with the wrong person, or you're probably not working with anybody at all. These posts go viral because they hit the emotional triggers like unfairness, fear, shame, scarcity. But here's the hidden cost. People begin believing these examples define the world, and they don't. So here's why most Americans, they feel it, because they have a uniquely distorted perception for three main reasons. Okay. Number one, America has extreme geographic inequality. Extreme. Coastal cities are wildly expensive. Midwest and southern cities remain affordable. But here it comes, y'all. Politics. Ain't going down there. It's a bunch of Republicans and they don't like black people, or they don't like this and they don't like this, and they don't, their views are intolerable and blah, blah, blah. If you go live in any of these cities, and I come from a small town, if you do what you're supposed to do, people will leave you alone. They ain't mad at you about your whatever your pronoun. They're not mad about that. You can live amongst people and they'll treat you with respect if you do what you're supposed to do. But it's your worldview that distorts everything. All right. So if you want to live in an expensive city where everything you do is acceptable and tolerant and all that, then pay the price for it. It's your choice. Now, number two, Americans rarely travel abroad. Only about 1 in 3 Americans hold a passport. 1 in 3. Interesting thing about Japan is I think it was like 15% of their population have a passport to go anywhere because they just love their country so much. They got everything. It's affordable. Why move? I think that number is 15%. It could be less, or it could be a little bit more. But I was talking to my wife about it, and she knows the Japanese numbers way better than I do. So the world they compare themselves to is just other Americans, not everywhere else. And then number 3, the U.S. cultural story is tied to making it big, like the American dream. And making it big is linked to New York City. You make it big in New York, LA, Miami, San Francisco, right? The 4 most expensive cities in the nation. And what this does is it reinforces a psychological trap, which is bad. People believe affordability equals failure. People believe affordability equals failure. That belief drives people into hardship unnecessarily. It's not necessary. Now, here's where the hoax data falls apart. I'm going to break it down by global numbers. The world's median rent for a 1-bedroom is $520. The world's median home price in urban areas is $110,000 to $160,000. And the percentage of cities with rent below 1,000 is 78%. And the percentage of Americans living in the 10 most expensive metros is only 8%. So the hoax is believing that 8% represents the other 92%. And as my wife says, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, or the loudest voice it's heard the most. And the loudest voices are taken as truth and reality, when all actuality, it's not. And here's something from global economist Dr. Michael Tran. And I'm going to quote him. He says, when we look at global data, affordability is still the norm. Western media highlights outliers, but the majority of the world remains accessible. Their narrative is emotionally powerful, but statistically false. Outrage economics is what I'm calling this. Okay. And here's a real story about a couple, and they're in Los Angeles. I'm just going to give them fake names. Mark is a software engineer. Jasmine is a teacher. They earn about $140,000 a year, but they were financially drowning. Rent $3,200, childcare $1,800 a month, commute 2 hours a day, savings zero. And they thought the world was doomed and everywhere else was worse. And then they visit Portugal, right? The cost dropped 58% overnight. Rent was $1,000. Healthcare was $65 a month. Groceries 30 to 40% cheaper. No car needed. And Mark still works for a U.S. company, and the wife teaches English online. Their savings, the highest they ever had. But the important part, they said, we didn't know life could be this easy. We'd been misled. And here's the thing. I don't know if they had family nearby, that they're trying to stay around family. They love baseball, and the team is there and they don't want to miss a baseball game. You got to look at all these things that these folks are giving up in order to go, so then they can afford to make money, save, and then come back and then buy whatever they want because they saved and they invested, right? But not everybody can do that. I say treat it like the military. That's what I did. I was in the military. We moved around. I couldn't see my mom all the time. I couldn't see my brothers and sisters all the time. My wife couldn't see her family all the time because we were in the military. And we did our time. We got out, and now we're doing our thing in the regular world. So here's the real enemy. And I'm going to wrap it up with this. It's about having a limited imagination. And the affordability hoax is not designed by governments or corporations. It's designed by limited imagination. And people think, I must live here. I must work in this city. This is where everything is. I must suffer because everyone else is suffering. But the world is massive, and opportunity is uneven, but it's uneven in your favor. And I was telling you about the story I was talking about my daughter about, and she said, everything here in New York was horrible and it was expensive, and I'm struggling to buy groceries and stuff. And I said, yeah, you got money on the side, and I'm sending you money every month to help pay for stuff. But she was like, well, if I didn't get a job, I could have been just like all those other people who went to college and got bachelor's or master's degree and still can't find a job because of the economy. I could have been just like them, living at home with you and mom. I said, no way. No way. You're not coming back home. Once you're out and you taste freedom and you have your own ideology and you have your way things work in life, in the world, you ain't coming back home, because our ways of thinking don't mesh. I think this way, you think that way. And you need to have time to figure out if the way you think is really the way the world works. And I'm going to let you have that. So you're not going to come back home and I'm going to prop up your ideology. I'm not doing that. Okay. You're going to go test that out, make sure it works out there. If it works for you, great. But you're not going to come back home and live off mom and dad and because it's unaffordable and you don't have a job. I said, you know what I would have done? I would have sent you money out of my own pocket to make sure you don't come back home and stay for good. Now, I'm not saying she can't come visit, because we always visit each other and hang out, but living together is different. Once you become an adult, you ought to be on your own, not at home. That's just me. That's how I think. A lot of parents think differently than I do, but I'm very strong in my faith. I'm very strong in what I believe. I'm very strong in my convictions, and I'm not going to let them down or drop my convictions because my child is having a tough time in life because their convictions aren't leading them the way that they thought it was going to go. And that's real world talk. All right. And also, I wanted her to become a stronger person and fight harder. If things aren't working out, fight harder. Yeah, life is hard, but that's why you have your faith. That's why you have people to lean on. That's why you have your parents to talk to. You have us, and we'll do what we can. And then she made it. She got a job making good money, and it's a job that she'll be able to get promoted in and go high as she wants to go in the future. Okay, so she got an apartment that she can quote unquote afford. It's not the best of places, but it's helping her to live out her dream. And I told her, I said, no, I wouldn't let you come back home. I would have made you stay out there. And now you achieved it. You've gotten to where you want to be. And I said, I would have had it no other way. I'm not going to shortchange you and like let you come back home and then give up on your dream. Like, I will help you. I have other parents who think just like I do. They're helping their kids become doctors. They're paying the rent. They're buying cars. They're helping with groceries. They're doing whatever they can so their kids can achieve the dream, not give up on it because of the affordability hoax. Yeah, things are more expensive, but man, somebody got to up their game, right? So again, in this episode, we've revealed the foundation of the affordability hoax. A few extreme cities shaping global perception, social media amplifying the crisis. I call it outrage economics. Human biases interpreting outliers as norms. Data providing the world is still accessible. Real stories showing how dramatically life can improve by moving. I moved to Vegas. My life improved. And the affordability crisis is real in certain locations. I'm not going to take that away from folks. But the idea that the world is unaffordable or other cities in the United States are unaffordable, that's the illusion. And in the next episode, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Europe, not the Paris and London you know, but highly livable, affordable cities that Americans rarely consider. And if you're retired, this might fit you perfectly to go stay a couple of months and come back, right? Cities with rich culture, modern infrastructure, safe streets, and rent under $1,000. So the hoax is cracking, the truth is emerging, and the world is opening up. I'm Harold Green of Bright Tree Wealth Management, and it is time to stop doing what you hate. Thank you for listening to episode 1 of the Affordability Hoax. Stay tuned for episode 2. And until next time, everybody, 1, 2, 3, up your game. No, let's get it.
This is the podcastfactory.com.